Get ready to be thrilled as we delve into 3 real bone-chilling mysteries that will send shivers down your spine. The first chilling tale takes us to the infamous Hotel Cecil, nestled in the heart of downtown Los Angeles, followed by the second true story about the bustling streets of Paris, deep into the unknown catacombs, and finally brace yourself for the mysterious calls of Line 1. These unsettling phone calls made by an entity from beyond will make you question the boundaries of our reality. Don't forget to put on your headphones. The first one is my favorite.
The silent callers of the Hotel Cecil. My name is Amber, and I used to work at the infamous Hotel Cecil in downtown Los Angeles. If you're unfamiliar with its reputation, let me give you a brief overview. Opened in 1927, the Cecil over the years gained notoriety for the countless tragic events and mysterious incidents that took place within its walls. Deaths, suicides, and even some of history's most notorious figures had connections to it. It was the summer of 2010. I had just started working the night shift at the reception. The hotel, despite its grim history, operated like any other. Tourists and locals checked in, mostly oblivious to its past. But as someone who worked there, I couldn't ignore the chilling tales my colleagues shared. One recurring event was the mystery of room 413. People who stayed in that room often reported phone calls in the middle of the night. When answered, only heavy breathing could be heard. Some guests even claimed to have heard soft whispers, although they could never quite make out the words. Initially, I brushed these off as pranks or overactive imaginations. That was until one evening, an elderly couple checked in and specifically requested room 413. They seemed familiar with the hotel but didn't explain their connection. Intrigued, I assigned them the room. In the early hours, around 2:30 a.m., the hotel's landline rang. It was the gentleman from room 413. His voice was shaky. "The calls are real," he whispered. Concerned, I assured him I'd check the internal phone logs. When I did, I discovered no outgoing calls to their room. A shiver ran down my spine. Morning came and the elderly couple checked out. They looked exhausted, eyes haunted. On an impulse, I asked them why they requested room 413. The man looked at his wife, hesitating. She gave a nod, and he began, "In 1967, our daughter stayed in that room. She went missing, and the last thing we knew was that she had called us from the hotel late at night. We only heard her breathing, and then nothing." My heart sank. The calls, the whispers. Were they her? Trying to reach out? I couldn't bear it any longer. Shortly after I resigned. The Cecil has since been rebranded, its history a silent echo in its halls. But if you ever find yourself in downtown LA, listen closely. The stories are real and sometimes they call out to you.
The haunting melodies of the Paris Catacombs. My name is Leo, and I'm a seasoned urban explorer, having ventured into abandoned buildings and underground passageways across Europe. But my most haunting experience came from my own hometown, Paris. Anyone who knows a bit about Paris is familiar with its catacombs, a vast underground network of tunnels and ossuaries that house the remains of millions. While many parts of the catacombs are open to tourists, there are numerous restricted sections, which naturally became the object of my curiosity. One evening, armed with a flashlight and a map of the tunnels, I, along with a few fellow explorers, decided to venture into one of the forbidden sections. We crawled through narrow openings, descended crumbling staircases, and navigated dark corridors, the weight of the city and its history pressing down on us. As we ventured deeper, the eerie silence was broken only by our footsteps and the distant drip of water. That's when we began to hear it, a faint, almost ethereal hum echoing through the tunnels. We paused, trying to pinpoint the direction. Following the sound, we eventually came upon a chamber lined with skulls and bones. The humming had turned into a soft melody, reminiscent of a lullaby. In the center of the room stood an old, tarnished piano. It was inexplicable. How did such a heavy object even get here? Curiously, one of my friends plucked up the courage to press a key. The note reverberated throughout the chamber, but the lullaby continued, undisturbed. We all realized that the piano wasn't the source of the haunting tune. Suddenly, the melody grew louder, clearer. It was as if we were no longer alone in that chamber, surrounded by the remains of countless souls. A cold breeze enveloped the room, extinguishing our torches. Panic set in, and we scrambled to reignite them. When the light returned, we noticed a fresh set of footprints in the dust, leading away from the chamber. They weren't there before. Terrified and unable to explain what we'd just experienced, we decided to retrace our steps and exit the catacombs. Once back in the bustling streets of Paris, the weight of our experience sunk in. Research later revealed a tale from the 1800s about a pianist who'd ventured into the catacombs, captivated by its acoustics, never to be seen again. Today, I still hear that haunting lullaby in my dreams, a ghostly reminder of the city's deep and mysterious past.
The mysterious calls of line 1. I'm Jenny, and I used to work at a small-town emergency call center. The calls we received were mostly mundane: stray dogs, neighborhood disputes, the occasional car accident. But something happened in the winter of 2005 that still gives me shivers to this day. Our call center was not modern by any means. In fact, there was one phone line, line 1, that had been around since the center's inception in the 1970s. It was old and faulty, occasionally ringing when there was no one on the other end. One evening, as the snow began to fall outside, line 1 lit up. Picking it up, I was met with silence, followed by the faint sound of a woman sobbing. "Hello?" I repeated a few times, growing increasingly uneasy. All I could make out between her sobs was, "He's here." After a moment, the line went dead. I reported the call, thinking it might have been a prank or a crossed line. My supervisor, an older lady who'd been there for decades, went white when I described it to her. She pulled me aside and told me a story. In the late 70s, a woman frequently called the center from line 1, whispering that someone was in her house. Each time, police would rush to the address associated with the line, but they would find the house empty. The calls became an eerie but regular occurrence, with the woman's distress more palpable each time. Then, the calls stopped. Sometime later, police were called to the house for an unrelated reason and made a horrifying discovery. Hidden away in a secret room were the remains of a woman, and evidence that someone else had been living there undetected for months. The house had remained vacant since then, and the phone line was supposed to have been disconnected. No one could explain the calls that came into the center or how they were still coming in on line 1. After hearing this story, I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the snow outside. For the next few weeks, every time line 1 lit up, my heart would skip a beat. Eventually, the older phone system was replaced, and line 1 was removed. I left the call center not long after and moved to the city. But the memory of that phantom call, of the voice of a woman long gone, reaching out for help, will stay with me forever.